Yeah, September is a really busy month here in the labor and delivery portion of the hospital. And we were like, oh, yeah, why is that? And she was like, because 9 months ago, it was Christmas and New Year's. So
Yeah, it's cold.
if you're a September baby,
People are off work. There's lots of
yeah.
things to do.
What else are you gonna do?
What else is there to do?
Sicario. That's what we're here to talk about today, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. This was my first time seeing it like the whole way through because I'd only ever seen bits and pieces of it. So this was kind of like filling in those gaps that I hadn't seen before. So
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, welcome to Screen Time. I'm your host, Josh Youngbar, and I have with me Claudia and Jared Youngbar.
howdy.
And today we're talking about Sicario, directed by Denis Villeneuve and written by Taylor Sheridan, which, since this film has gotten pretty famous for his TV shows.
Yeah.
The cinematographer Roger Deakins, also second one in a row with him because Prisoners last week's he was the DP on that as well. I brought in a little bit of trying to look up because we were talking about this a little bit last episode. The estimated production cost of these movies. I could not find any information on Enemy.
Okay.
Nowhere. Like no one has any estimates. Which is wild. I guess because it was that much of an indie film that it just it wasn't put out by one of the mainstream production companies. But the estimated production cost of Sicario is about $30 million, but Prisoners was $46 million.
Really?
Whoa.
So, yeah, I know.
I cannot believe that.
I know. With the
What's all involved? Like you mentioned last week about it's all like one location pretty much.
yeah, I mean,
but it's
both of them are pretty minimal location. Yes, this one's Sicario probably has more variation what you would think, but they probably also filmed it still all within. I mean, most of that stuff could be easily the same terrain in same area,
right.
So it might not had to go far, but also it could be the actors,
Yeah, but there's a lot of actors in this too.
They are, but they're also, especially when this came out, they weren't as well known as they even are now.
What year did this come out?
2015.
Benicio del Toro is probably the most expensive and
But I don't think he's as expensive as
Yeah, Hugh Jackman or
Jake
Gyllenhaal.
Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, that's
That's
true.
fair.
Because
Yeah.
they would have. You're right. They would have been bigger then.
Yeah.
Mm.
So that's only my guess is.
Yeah, because there's a lot more. I feel like went into this movie as far as because of the action.
You
and
have all the effects,
Right.
all the gun work, all the action stuff, like you said.
I wonder if it being in Mexico has anything to do with that. Like
Yeah,
scenes in Mexico being filmed.
Yeah, I was looking up the locations because I was wondering how much they actually filmed in Mexico, and they did some of it in Mexico. And
Well, to locations,
Yeah.
speaking, there's sometimes credits and incentives to film in certain areas, and so, or the cost to film somewhere is cheaper than elsewhere. So that could have played a role. Like you said, if they film something in Mexico, it maybe it's cheaper there to get the rest of the ancillary crew that you would hire, and
that's why so much stuff gets filmed in Canada too, right? Because it's way
especially
cheaper.
those TV shows,
Yeah.
like
I've noticed that a lot.
Suits. It's all
Oh,
filmed,
really? Okay.
Yeah, it's all filmed in Canada, in Toronto, and it's supposed to be New York City. But yeah, things like that. Yeah, it's cheaper.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was just a little thing that we had been discussing. So I figured I would bring up those, and then of course I was surprised that this one was cheaper than.
Yeah, I'm
That's
very
a big-
surprised.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Even just this whole movie the whole way through, I figured it would have been a way higher budget than Prisoners.
Yeah.
But, yeah. But I guess you're right. Yeah, I guess it's the actors. I don't know what else it would be.
I mean, that's probably what makes the difference. I would assume that.
Yeah, because you have the same composer even. So same composer, same DP,
director, same
yeah.
DP.
Yeah.
Which also means probably a lot of the other some of the crew,
Mm.
key crew under that are probably the same people. Because if you have the
Yeah,
same
that makes
director
sense.
and cinematographer, they're probably hiring some of the same other like gaffers and because they have their people they like to work with. But yeah, so just interesting.
That is interesting.
So yeah, so you were saying that this is the first time you're seeing it all the way through.
Yes. Yeah, this was my first time watching this movie with like all of the missing pieces that I hadn't had before because I'm pretty sure walked in on my mom watching it at one point and then Jared watching it at one point, not really knowing like essentially what it's about. But I mean, this movie is full on from start to finish with some of the scenes that are in it and jarring, polarizing scenes. But I loved it. Thought it was amazing. Yeah. I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I actually ended up liking it. So,
Nice. That's good. That's because we just watched it, and yeah, I was really interested, and because
yeah,
we can't,
Jared's like, we
talk.
can't talk about
I
this
know.
now.
Right after, I'm like,
Save it for the pod.
save for the pod. That's what we always say now. Yeah. So
we don't discuss our movies
yeah, I'm glad you
if
really
we're
liked it.
reviewing them. Yeah.
Yeah. What about
Yeah.
you, Jeff?
So yeah, I liked it. I liked it. It's still, again, it's funny, like we talked about on all three of these movies now. Like it's not really the genre I watch
Right.
most of the time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I think sometimes it's like the in general, what I prefer is something that takes me a little out of reality. It doesn't have to be major, but just a little bit, like something that takes you a little bit out of reality. And these movies, specifically the last two, this one and Prisoners, is just very grounded in in reality.
Yeah. Very, very real. Yeah.
Especially this movie,
Mhm.
like well, yes, the subject matter is very real in both. This one, I think, they really try to make you feel like you're part of what you're watching, and you're like, it's very visceral, especially like the sound design. I feel like it was very like,
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
but yeah, but I liked it. I definitely liked it. I just, yeah. But
Did you get those? Did you get those lioness vibes? Since
yeah,
it's Taylor Sheridan, and it's like I said, it was when we were going to do this movie. I mentioned it's
mhm.
that's kind of like a similar thing in
Yeah.
a way.
The funny thing is, like, I would say in general, from a story standpoint, I think like I prefer the Lioness, right? But I think it's because that does have there's like a little bit of element of the drama that's there that even though it's subtle in that a little bit more, but that kind of pushes it a little out of not as real life, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
And then there's also room for a little more character development there. Like this,
Of course. Yeah.
they definitely, you can't spend much time getting to know.
Yeah. This is like exactly what 2 hours long, I think. So
It
yeah.
honestly was, well, we get to in spoilers.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Well, I was like, well, I want to get into stuff, but
Not spoilers yet.
not
Yeah.
spoilers yet. But let me just read the synopsis before we
Yeah.
get into it. So, an idealistic FBI agent enlisted by the government task force to aid in the escalating war against drugs at the border between the U.S. and Mexico.
Still pretty vague, like the other ones, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they're always pretty vague. Right?
Yeah. I guess so. Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess besides, is that kind of it for overall thoughts? I mean, you've
Well,
seen this a couple times, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen it. Probably 4 times now, or something like that. But yeah, I'm wondering. Well, I guess I'll ask you both this. Like so far, so this is now the third of Denny's movies. How is this one like in relation to the others? Like, which one is your favorite? I guess we can kind of do that as we go, like through the other
yeah,
ones
it's a
too.
good idea.
I'm wondering now, like of these 3, which one is your favorite?
That's a hard question. It's so different from the other two. I don't know that I like it better than Prisoners. I like it a lot, probably about the same. It's different. I feel different when I'm watching both of them. So I can't say that I would put one over the other. Because I said last time that Prisoners I liked better than Enemy.
Right.
but though Enemy was really good, it was still overall Prisoners was the better film in my opinion. But this one's
Now it's kinda
difficult.
even
It's kind of
with
even for
Sicario?
me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Did I say last time? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm trying to remember what.
If we ask this question to all
I
of us,
think
or
you
you were
said.
or if
I
you were
think you
just,
said like kind of what she said, but the last two. I think you said Enemy and Prisoners.
It was hard
You
for you to
didn't really-
pick, I'm
yeah.
pretty sure.
yeah. Well, now sitting with it a little bit longer. I was just thinking. I feel like, to be honest, like Enemy still sits with me a little bit more. There's more underlying things to like.
Dissect.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
just
definitely.
kind of there's lots to read between the lines of like
Yeah.
what's kind of left to interpretation, I guess the best way to put it. And so I think for that reason, and maybe I would edge that one a little bit above. But I think this one I liked better than both. So this movie, I feel like you can see the skill level move up to another level as far as like directing and something like I feel like the performances, even though the actors were just a little bit better than even with the Prisoners. Like I feel like Prisoners, like I don't know how to describe this, but well, I think the performances the actors gave were good, but in this, I feel like you could see where the director is even like asking more of them than what they would, and kind of being able to push them a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And like I can see that. I feel it, and so I think that sets it a little bit
Yeah.
above.
I also, it's funny to see now these three movies. You see each movie like he's getting more like popular actors in it, right?
Yeah.
So like this one has the most of the three, as far as actors that at least people recognize. I don't know, like you said, maybe not as much in 2015, but still,
Right.
somewhat. I would say they were all still somewhat famous at that point,
Right.
you know. So
Because like her partner, like I was like, oh, that guy looks familiar, and then
Yeah.
like, oh,
Daniel
he's from,
Kaluuya, yeah,
he's like from Black Panther.
I absolutely.
Yeah.
But that was later
Love
after
him.
that, right?
Yeah, but
Well-
he's in Nope.
I was gonna
also.
say he's Jordan Peele's guy. Yeah, like
he's in Get Out.
Mhm.
Yes,
Main
that's
guy.
yeah. I haven't seen those movies.
Oh boy.
Yeah, he's great in this. That's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the cast. You're right though. Like, yeah, everyone. We were talking about this, like just going through the movie. Everyone is like so good in this
Yeah,
cast
well,
wise.
but-
Like all the
I know who my
performances.
favorite is though. Who the best performance in my
Okay,
opinion is.
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's we were talking about kind of plot and characters and right now before we get into other stuff. But yeah, the Benicio del Toro and Josh Brolin, I think were both like phenomenal.
Yeah,
I mean, and such a like two different side of the coin, right? Like Josh Brolin's
yeah,
just like
for sure.
having a good old time.
It's like the good cop, bad cop
Yeah.
type situation.
Yeah, to
Because
the
Benicio
extreme,
del Toro plays Alejandro, or Medellin, as the streets call him.
Mm-hmm.
And, they keep him very mysterious in this movie. Even to the end, I would say he's very, you learn more about him, obviously, as the movie progresses. But there's still a sense of, I
He's
don't know what the
basically a
word is looking
hitman.
for, elusiveness with him.
Like that's what they
Well,
say because he doesn't.
yeah.
Right? Yeah, exactly what you
Yeah.
said. Yeah, and
Mhm.
because
Well,
he
that's
doesn't
what
really
those-
take sides even.
That's what Sicario, the word means.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Assassin or hitman.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, it was but he's like so serious.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So serious about everything and he's
Mhm.
taking it so seriously.
Mhm.
And which plays out good, right? Like when he's keeping an eye on her and saves her life, right?
Yeah.
But then Josh Brolin's character, he's just like laughing off everything and
I
just like,
know.
it was a good day.
Yeah.
It was a good day.
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
killed a bunch of people, drug.
No big deal.
drug
Nonchalant.
Yeah, it was a good day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, or like don't go in the bank. And then she just goes and he's like,
Mm-hmm.
I told her not to go in the bank. Just-
But he's still kind of chill about it. Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
and then she's gets strangled to death. He's like, I told you not to go in the bank. It's like,
Yep.
Oh yeah. In the beginning, when they kind of introduced Josh Brolin's character, who's Matt Graver, and he's sitting in the boardroom, you know, with the other police officers and, you know, FBI agents or whatever, and he's kind of just like sitting there looking at what's her name, Kate,
Yeah.
and Emily Blunt's character, and the way he talks to her is almost, it's giving that kind of vibe. Like if I were Kate in that boardroom, I'm like, I'm not going anywhere with this guy.
Yeah.
He's giving me creepy vibes. I don't like him.
But he's not though.
But he's not.
Right. But you would get that impression.
It's almost the impression that he's almost flirting with her.
they pan and show he's wearing flip flops.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Who is this guy?
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I was gonna say, the thing that of all the different characters, like Kate's the only one that I thought was an odd. Like some scenes seemed right, and then it was I don't know, I would say 30%. Maybe there was times where she was like kind of the way she made decisions or what, and it's more about the writing, I think, of her character than the acting. I don't think it was the acting. Just kind of seemed off. Like there'd be times where like even that, like you said, like the vibe, you're like, why is she doing this? But then she does it. I remember like towards the end when they're like, you know, we don't need you, and they're going on the thing, and he's like, you guys can just wait here. And even the partner's like, well, why are you going? And she's like, I have to see what they've been using us for, you know. And I'm like,
Right.
no, you would just leave. Like,
Yeah.
like,
She, I have
That
to
is-
say, was
that
my
is
least
one.
favorite
Yeah.
character in this movie.
Really? Okay.
Absolutely.
No, you point out that line though. Yeah, that is kind of a dumb line.
And there was just a couple times of
Yeah.
that kind of stuff happening where
Yeah.
I think though, because I do agree with the dialogue of her sometimes, but I think as far as like anytime she's in like an action scene though, like I think she's one of the best female like action stars, because like you see her in Edge of Tomorrow.
yeah.
Right.
I'm trying to think of some
Good
other
movie.
shit. Like she's really good in these kind of movies, I think.
Yeah.
So like all those scenes in this, I thought she was great.
Well, and
Yeah.
then another like kind of point to our opening scene. They kind of present her as a badass, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
and she's like almost, I'm not say in control, but she's leading that, right?
Yeah.
That was the best part of her character, was the opening.
Right. And then after that, the rest of the time, it's almost like she's not strong. She's right, and it just didn't feel right. Like it was like
I
think
100% agree.
I think it's partially though the situation she's in. You know what I mean?
Right. They were keeping her in the dark intentionally,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Like of what's going on, but it's still, I don't know. And then so then she seemed very, almost like sheepish sometimes, and I was like, this doesn't fit what you were portrayed as in the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping that there'd be some sort of like, not that there wasn't technically, but growth in her character towards the end where she's kind of leveling up with these big dogs. But I didn't feel that coming through at all with her character.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess she is. Emotionally, though, she's been through a lot. Because I have a note about something in particular that I'll get into later about how you can tell. They actually show it in a visual way that I noticed throughout the whole movie of her that kind of explains everything that she's gone through in this movie, which is really cool. But I can mention that later. But honestly, though, like, I was trying to think if there's, because even her, like, I thought she was great. Like, I don't think there is anyone that didn't do very well in this movie. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
I thought every actor was great, and it's hard to narrow it down to like, you know,
like the performance on her part, I think was good.
yeah,
From Emily Blunt's.
mm-hmm.
I think it was just the way the character was written.
Yeah.
Is
No, I agree with
better,
that.
I think,
Yeah.
is what I was getting
Yeah.
at. So anything else around story, plot, and characters? Anything else you guys have to say about that in general before?
Well,
Yeah, you got some.
I was wondering. So you do have a favorite performance though?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Benicio del Toro is my
Yeah,
favorite. He's the best
yeah.
in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would probably have to
It was
agree.
not hard for me to pick this movie, I have to say.
The other two though that I would have to mention that I thought were so good in this is Daniel Kaluuya, and just because he's one of my favorite actors, John
Yes.
Bernthal. Even
Yeah.
though he's in
Oh.
one
Oh
scene.
yeah, like I was like,
he's one of my
"Hey,"
favorites.
when he
Yeah.
showed up, and then
Yeah.
I mean, even when they just made the glance in the bar, you're like,
Claudia said that she saw her in like the
In
background.
the
He saw
background
him.
when he's like fuzzy before he comes into
Yeah.
the line of sight, I was like, I know that nose anywhere.
Yep.
well, and then you're like, so you know it's him, and then you're like, well, you don't cast somebody, he's
Right.
not as big as some of the other names. You don't cast somebody like that unless they're gonna have some more to do, right?
Right.
So
Yep.
then you knew something was gonna play out a little bit, and
Yeah.
anyway,
And this would have been right around Punisher, right? Or maybe right before.
I can't.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I feel
remember
like
the-
he would have been pretty. Yeah.
I
Or
can't
the
remember
dates
when
for that,
Punisher
but
came
yeah.
out, yeah.
Should be around that, but I mean, he would have already done Walking Dead
Well, yeah, that's where he would have.
because that's
Yeah, first kind of gotten big. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. Um, yeah. Any other thoughts around that stuff?
Not on that. I mean, I have a bunch of different notes that I'll kind of jump
Okay,
around when
yeah.
we go to later. But
Well, let's talk about cinematography and the visuals.
yeah, I want you to go off on this because
Well, I mean, we could spend hours talking about this
Mhm.
and alone. There definitely was just next level in this.
yeah,
Mhm.
So there was a lot of stuff that was, let's say pretty, but like not really nice. But one of the things I noticed was they did a lot with, what's his character? Alejandro's,
Mhm.
like, he was always in the dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they barely lit him, and just
Mhm.
just a slight, what we call a eye light, so you can see his eyes, like just a pinhole on the eye, so that that you can see them in the dark, right? But that was a lot of times he was in shadow, and then of course on the flip side, Emily Blunt's character, she would always be lit pretty well,
Right.
and they kind of played with that a lot on the kind of like the good and the bad side of like these cops, right? And
Sure.
so to speak.
I didn't think about that, but yeah, that's a perfect way to.
They,
Yeah.
they
The
it's
good
just
and the
it's
bad
a subtle
side, yeah.
it's a subtle technique that they've been using in film for forever, but just to designate someone who's might be a little shadier, right? You put them, light them darker, and then someone who's supposed to be good, you want them to be seen. So they definitely play with that throughout the film. I don't know, I can't remember if I picked up it right at the beginning, but definitely by the end of the first act, I was like noticing that stuff, and then of course from there on you kind of pay attention more, and you're like,
So this is a big jump up from even because I know you didn't mention it as much in Prisoners, even though it's still Roger Deakins. But like this one, is this a big jump up?
well, I think it
For
was
him?
just there was more opportunity to be creative with camera shots and angles and things like that with just the type of story and film it was, versus Prisoners. A lot of it, I think I mentioned before, it kind of needed to feel almost like a documentary, so to speak. So a lot of it was
That's right.
shot to be very natural, like
Okay.
like you're just observing and you're watching this thing. Whereas this, they were trying to sometimes make it even more visceral. I think, like, make you part of it. I mean, some of those shots with I don't know, I'm trying to think, like at the end when they're on that last mission and they're like under the tunnel and like you're like in there,
Dude, yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
like
That was
like
so sick.
that from the opening of that where it was like sunset and then just
That was the scene I was going to mention
going in there
specifically. Yeah.
to then but even under there, the way they did such a good job of making you feel the uncertainty of, like, in a situation like that where it's dark, you felt the, like, disorientation of it, but yet, because this is difficult to make the viewer feel the disorientation but then not disorient them so they still understand what's happening, right? And I think they found that balance really well of letting you feel that as a viewer, to kind of feel what the action should be, but then yet you still were following kind of what everyone was doing. And like I said, that's not easy to do. So I think that was done very, very well. And then the different usage of when it's like night mode, so to speak, and then or like the night vision and
night
then
vision and
The thermal
with the other
vision,
one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the thermal
and then
vision.
and then mix of that, and then even just normal, like they have normal shots and all that stuff. But yeah, it's cool stuff.
that's the one I wanted to mention in particular was the opening of that, because as soon as you see that skyline, I'm like, man, how long do they have to film that? Because that goes away really quick. You know what I mean? Exactly.
You don't. Yeah, that doesn't. So either they faked it, which I don't know. That
It doesn't look like.
Doesn't look like it.
Yeah, I don't know.
You just get lucky. That's because
Dude,
like also even if you planned it for like you don't get that sky all the time.
That's what. Yeah,
Correct.
it's crazy, and you have a short amount of time too, right?
Yeah.
And what's so cool specifically with that shot is just that the lighting of it in general. But then as they walk away, they all disappear into that skyline. It's so cool how they do that going into the infiltration.
Yeah.
That was like one of the best. The other ones is just some of the really, I don't know, I guess they'd be drone shots, right? Or like the really high far away shots.
The satellite / drone shots here that they
or even just
surveillance stuff.
not when it actually was like from the view of surveillance, but even just, I don't know, is that an establishing shot?
Yeah.
But it's like a drone shot though is what kind of the view they're doing. Some of those too, I was like, man,
some of the shots
these
in actual like in Juarez in Mexico when they get there.
Yes.
And you're seeing Juarez from above. And even the scene when she's on the roof and she goes through the binoculars and you're looking at the different parts of Juarez and you're seeing, I mean, gunfire, explosions, and how this place is the wild, wild west, honestly. Like, you're not even 15 minutes into Mexico over the border, and there are people hanging from bridges to make a point. Like, that's how crazy the cartel is in Mexico.
Yeah. Those kind of shots are just...
They're great.
I was like just amazed by that. The other one I thought of in particular, I think it was just a cool idea, because it's not like anything crazy shot-wise, but I'm trying to remember. It's still pretty early on in the movie. It's Kate and sorry, I don't remember Josh Brolin's character name.
Matt.
Okay, so Kate and Matt are talking. They get back to like the base, and they're arguing at each other, and they're so far away, both of them. And you think like in a shot like that normally it would be like very close on them because they're like arguing back and forth, but it's so far away, and you see, and it just stays like that. Do their whole argument, and then they like go their separate ways. And I just thought that was cool because I thought that's kind of like not normally what they would do in a shot like that,
they usually
right?
get close when people are fighting like that, having arguments.
Yeah. So I thought stuff like little things like that are really cool in the movie that they do. That's not like a conventional
I like the scene
way.
when Kate's in the car and they're about to leave Mexico, and they're like keeping an eye on the vehicles that have cartel members and their guns and things. And Kate kind of stays in the car while everybody's out of the car at this point. And she has her gun drawn, and she sees in the mirror the reflection of the guy behind her shooting at her, and she ducks, turns around, shoots him through the window. They executed that scene really well because I was following where everyone was the whole time. Like in the car, you could tell where the guy was in the back, right rear of the car, and she's, it was.
That's a great point, because I can't imagine that would be easy to film and actually make it all make sense.
Yeah, it made perfect sense. Yeah.
The also the shot when she's making out with whatever his real name. His name was in the John Bertha.
I know. I'm trying to think of his character name.
Yeah, I remember his character name. Teddy, maybe?
Yeah, it might be Ted.
It's
Is it Ted? Yeah.
And anyway, the shot where
it's a reflection?
reflection like upside down, where then when she sees the bracelet,
yes,
and it cues her, and that was a cool shot.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And it's also one of those, from a storytelling, like we saw it before she saw it, so like it builds that like a little bit of tension and then more tension, right? Like, because you're like, oh,
you know exactly
and then
where
there's
that's
like a couple beats of, you see a couple cuts of like, and then it shows her see it, and then her reaction, and so it just kind of lets you kind of
definitely
process.
I wanted to mention that scene too, because when they actually start fighting, I thought that was so realistic, the way, because she couldn't overpower him, but she still actually like they struggle for a while, right?
She was good with her technical
Yeah.
self-defense moves
But
that
like
she was doing.
everything they did with, I guess that would still be a choreographed scene, I'm assuming,
Yeah.
right? And but it didn't feel like staged at all. Like it felt like a really real, struggle that they
Yeah,
would
like a woman
have.
struggling
Exactly,
to
yeah.
get out of a man's,
Yeah, but not just a normal woman. Like she still has some.
Oh no, she's very precise
Right,
on her
exactly.
hits and her parries and stuff like that.
No, you're right. It was well. She didn't all of a sudden have superpowers and be able to take them out, right?
Right,
Right, exactly.
but also not even that. It's just like it didn't feel like too like flashy or like, hey, we're in a movie and we're gonna do a cool fight. So, it just felt like
Yeah.
a real,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The opening SWAT attack
Dude.
of that, like
The opening of this movie.
them just. So what did they? I didn't go back and watch it, but it felt like they were just driving really fast as to the house, and then all of a sudden they just rammed the did they back into it? Like,
Yeah,
because it opened up and
I'm not sure,
or is
yeah.
it just the vehicle's designed to like you're driving it from the back, and I don't know.
It's a really good question.
It's just one of those things I'd never seen it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could go reverse that fast. It's just really hard to precisely.
Yeah, right.
Well, again, like
quickly
maybe
reverse.
it's designed that way.
Yeah.
Like you drive it from the back almost, but
Yeah.
you can see the front. Some way that you have a camera or something you're driving from, and then
Yeah.
it's designed reinforced there.
I don't think I've ever seen a car blow through a house like that. Like usually they beat down, they take that thing and they beat the front door and then they just go in that way. But they really, I mean,
Yeah.
full on.
Yeah, that whole, just the way this movie opens is just an incredible scene. Yeah.
Yeah, all that, and then the way it plays out, and then the bodies in the wall.
The shotgun shot that he made initially is what revealed that the bodies were literally
Yep.
in the house. That was so crazy.
But also
So
then
crazy.
so they go through all that and then you think it's done. She walks out and then another big explosion. Yeah.
I had a feeling.
Well, that guy was messing with that.
Yeah, like
Right. It's
I was
not
like,
it's not
maybe,
completely out of nowhere.
maybe
Yeah.
not open that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was, you mentioned that place. You said you were familiar with that place?
Chandler,
Yeah.
Arizona. Yeah, I think I've.
That's near where Denis lives, right?
Yes, it is. It's kind of all in the same. I want to say when
Yeah,
I
I thought
flew
it
in
was
for
in-
my business trip.
Yeah.
I want to say we passed through Chandler or we were in Chandler.
Shout out to our cousin.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. But is she that close to the border? Because I think this town's pretty close,
Um,
right?
I'm trying to pull up a map because geography is not my
Yeah. I don't know.
my strong suit. Okay. Yes. So Phoenix. Yeah, okay. So Gilbert is where Danae lives.
Oh, that's right. Gilbert.
Chandler is right underneath of it here, and this is Phoenix. And then, I mean, Mexico's right here.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's still pretty much the same
It's
area.
it's
Yeah.
right here. This is where the border is. So it's, I mean, probably like an hour-ish, hour and a half.
Dang. I was going to mention also, just because how great this movie opens is, I don't know, you guys might disagree with this, but I think, because of the three movies, of course, this is my favorite of his movies so far, but I think the whole movie is incredibly well paced. Like you know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
Like it
Yeah.
doesn't.
I agree with that.
Okay, cool.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're
Even
right.
for a 2-hour movie, like it just keeps going. It doesn't, even when it does slow down some in the middle, it doesn't feel like you are really. Yeah.
No, it was well paced. And so
So again, is that shout out to the editing? I don't know.
I would say yes.
Okay, there you go.
I would say yes. Another, just the dark scenes, like after he, what was his name? Alejandro. After he gets kind of on the other side and is there with the police officer.
Yep.
Just that, from that point on, you like when they pull that guy over and it's just like and everything else
Dude,
is dark. Like,
yeah.
it was just, there was a lot of like really, and I honestly, some of the stuff I could see, like it looked good on my TV, but it's one of those things where, like with that, with the HBO um, Game of Thrones episodes where people were complaining they were
Yeah.
too dark, but on my TV they were fine, but it's different than what most people have with a OLED TV.
Mhm.
So like it looked fine on my TV. So I was the same with this. Like that stuff looked fine on my TV, but it's like, but that's because I have lots of detail in my blacks, and
Right.
I wasn't sure. I'm like, man, if someone watched this on they might not even be able to see what's happening. Some of that
It was still good. I mean, because
Good for
ours
you
is an
guys.
OLED, yeah,
Yeah.
and it still looked good. Yeah.
okay, good.
Yeah.
I was curious because sometimes
No, that was another shot actually that even I was like, this is
yeah,
cool.
yeah. Some of the the shot you mentioned earlier with that also reminds me of some of the types of shots you'd see in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, where
I was
just
going to
give
mention
this-
that. The really
yeah.
far one
Far
where
away,
they're
yep.
face off, but it's like, yeah,
Yep.
definitely.
Just I guess it's to add a little Western feel, maybe. Is that
yeah.
what that maybe originated
Maybe.
from? Or there's I don't know. I'm just thought of it.
Yeah, but I feel like with like old Western movies, they wouldn't shoot it that way though. But it is two people standing off on with each other. But I feel like they wouldn't have shot it in that way though, would they?
I feel like they would show like the distance and
Okay, maybe, yeah.
Like in a standoff
yeah,
situation.
you might
Yeah.
have like the establishing where you see both of them,
Yeah.
and then then they go back and forth from just like over the shoulder because you're waiting to see the
Mhm.
gun and
Right.
yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. Maybe that's where
Yeah.
that influence comes from.
No, it probably is, yeah. Man, I was also Alejandro. Dude, he never misses a shot in this
No.
whole movie. It's insane.
Like it's nothing
yeah.
at the table.
Oh, we'll talk
That's
about
it.
that scene. That's
Phew.
also one of the
Yeah,
best
that's.
scenes.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I don't know. I mean, yes, but
Oof.
it's very heavy.
Yeah.
It's a heavy scene.
Um.
Let's talk about the interrogation room where we finally actually meet Medellin in action
Oh, yeah.
for the first time.
Yeah.
Big time. And that guy, I forget his name, but he's got the glasses. He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna step out." He gets up
And they turn the camera off.
and they turn the camera off.
Oh,
And the other guy
And you can
steps up.
see the guy who's like on the chair,
Yeah.
like sweating. You're like, Medellin.
I was trying to look up the actor's name because it's the Burn Notice guy.
Yeah.
That's who that actor
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
He's the main guy
Oh.
from that show. But I don't.
So
I don't remember his name, but-
that reminds me of that. In that scene, they also don't show you.
No, but you hear it.
You hear it. Oh, you hear it.
You
but,
know, yeah.
but it's just a tactic to like almost make it worse than it could have possibly been,
for
right?
sure.
So they're just like pushing it on the drain, and just you hear all these things.
You hear
and,
what's, and I mean, you're just left up to like what could possibly this guy be doing with this giant water bottle, but also with his crotch pushed up on this guy's face.
Right.
Like he's like, oh, I think he remembers you.
Yeah, that was good. That was
yeah.
good. Actually, that's something that Claudia and I were just talking about on Film Banter because we've been doing like scary movies for the month of October, and was it Texas Chainsaw? There, I don't know. It was a specific movie we were talking about where they actually don't show because, and I was
Yes.
mentioning it's like
Well, it wasn't
your
they-
imagination makes it so much
Right. It
more
wasn't
worse
that
than
they didn't show it. It's when
Oh, there was
when
not
he
much
when
blood.
he when he hooks her on you don't hear the sound effect of her body being put on the butcher hook.
Yeah, and that
and
made
it makes
worse.
it worse. you
No,
know?
but even like certain scenes, like you don't really see him actually do it. And to your point,
Yeah.
I think that's better in a lot of ways.
yeah. I mean, you can't always do that, right?
Right.
But like,
Mm-hmm.
but using that, especially earlier in the movie, to kind of still leave some mystery, as your point earlier, of who this guy is and what he's capable of.
Mm-hmm.
To
We-
just kind of not show and just hear and just leave a little bit to the unknown still.
Yeah.
I think that was
And even who was it that he was talking to before he walked into the room he was some high political guy in Mexico, I guess, and
He was asking about his family.
he was asking about it, but he was also talking about coming in with him, and he was like, no, it's better for you to say you don't know what happened,
right.
and kind
oh, yeah.
of like shrugging him off, like you don't want to be in the room
Yeah.
for what we're about to do to this guy. Yeah.
No.
So yeah. Woo.
yeah.
Also, the scene when they first go into Mexico, and you see that it's another like I guess, drone shot. And Claudia and I were talking about, and she mentioned, she was like, take note of the amount of cars going into Mexico and the amount of cars trying to get out of Mexico. Mm-hmm. That explains a lot right there. It's like, it's crazy.
Well, also, the amount of cars, but probably no one cares if you come in. They just they don't want you to leave or come into the U.S.
Yeah, it's true.
It's probably a longer process to get into the U.S. versus
than getting into Mexico. Oh,
sure.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, come on.
Right.
Come on over.
Yeah.
But like Claudia mentioned also, that's another amazing scene is on the border of that whole scene.
That whole scene is incredible.
Well, it's so because you all, at least for me, when I was watching it, I was like, wasn't even quite sure what was going on at first when they went into Mexico, right?
Yeah, because she kind of shows up at the tail end of the briefing of
what
they're about to do. So you're kind of like, oh.
And
so you're also in the dark, basically, about the mission,
Yeah, so then they're like riding in these black SUVs, and then as they get over the border, then these police. And so at first you're not even sure, are the police going to pull them over? Oh, no, okay, they're kind of escorting, and then they get there, get the guy. Mm-hmm. And then they throw the guy in the vehicle, and then they head out, and it seems like everything's choreographed, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden there's the gridlock right on the bridge. And then, of course, then you're like, oh, and then it creates some tension. And, of course, they're watching the cars and see the guys with guns that are, but then it was crazy. The scene you mentioned with her, like, but then they just take those other two cars out of guys, and then they're like, oh, okay, we're good.
Mm-hmm. And keep moving.
And just leave, yep.
The amazing thing about this movie is that anytime they're in Mexico and there are situations like this happening where they're killing people in front of civilians, the Mexicans around them are like seeing what's happening, and they're like, and then they just go on about their day because they probably see this crap all the time.
Well, that's they're
desensitized.
The very final scene of the movie. Yeah. That was a perfect way to end it.
At the soccer game.
Yeah, because it was the mom taking the kid, and she just, they stop for a second, hear all the gunshots, and then go back to the game. Because just another day in Mexico.
Another day in Mexico. Yeah. In that part of Mexico, I guess.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. So, soundtrack and audio. Well, the audio in general, sound design is insane.
I know. Yeah, I was going to mention that. Yeah, and it's I don't know if he helped with sound design, but the composer again is Johansson, and so I think I mentioned last week with Prisoners, because there's not as much in that movie score wise, and like you said, it's a little bit more in the background too. It's not as up in the mix or up with everything else, the vocals and everything else. Vocals, I say vocals like it's a song.
The dialogue.
There you go. But this one, this score, sound design, everything is just perfect. And I looked it up because I noticed in some spots the way he used, cellos in particular. I was like, this sounds a little bit like. I looked up. His main inspiration for this was Jaws. And he did that a lot. The similar Jaws theme's a very simple motif that he would do in several parts, like on the border, slowly just ramping that up. There's a lot of different times in the movie where he does this, but it's just perfect.
Just like Jaws just gets a little bit louder, more intense. You're right. I'm noticing it, but not but as soon as you say that, I'm like, yes, it was there.
It's cool.
I didn't. I mean, again, it's definitely more prevalent in the mix, as you were saying, which makes everything a little more intense, I guess. I don't know, because of the way the music is, but
what I love is it's not, because you could easily with a lot of these scenes just go to 11 with the amount of stuff going on with the music, and he never does. But it's still very effective.
It's great.
Yeah. So
no, it was good. It's good stuff. It's definitely good stuff, and again, the sound design.
Dude, I know there's so many times, especially in the infiltration, I think, to the tunnel.
Yes.
With all that.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know. Again, I mean, I end up most of the time watching these movies. I use my AirPods, noise canceling on, and just so that then you have the spatial audio going on, Dude, like some of that stuff. It's crazy. The sound that.
Some of these kind of because like Prisoners not as much. Like
Mm,
I wouldn't care as much about seeing that in theaters, but like this movie in like Dolby Atmos would be
yes.
sick.
Wild.
Yeah.
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 Which we'll do that in the future with a movie coming up soon that I did see in theaters twice. That was just the best, like one of the best sound experiences. Actually, two of his movies were some of like the best sound experience I've had in a movie.
Mm,
So
yeah. So overall, I mean, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but like overall themes and messaging. I mean, do you think there's, what is this film trying to say? Any thoughts?
Okay, so we realize that Kate's position in this movie is the position of what's good and by the book. And when she sees, I mean, they're just scratching the surface on the corruption of what the cartel is capable of doing with her. And she's finally getting exposed to that side of the job. Sometimes you have to do things not by the book, especially in a war that you are wildly losing. I mean, just
yeah,
you have like the whole theme of this, I think, is control and trying to take back control. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's out of control. It's beyond out of control
yeah.
what the drug cartel is
Well,
doing even today.
I was gonna ask you guys about that, like because of the way the movie ends. Like, which side would you be on, either Kate's side or Alejandro's side, with the decision of eventually, obviously, she gives in because she doesn't want to die, but
Right.
she was always very through the whole movie. She's very much by the books.
And
And
hesitant to do anything.
Exactly, and he explains in a very detailed way what happened to his family, and
what this monster that he's trying to kill
yeah,
does to people every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
I think in cases like that, I'm on Alejandro's side.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I mean, like we were talking about before, it's kind of interesting because they're basically, here's the kind of the shady side of justice, so to
Right.
speak, and then like by the book side of justice.
Mm-hmm.
And they're kind of showing you those two sides, and yeah, I think it's trying to say that sometimes you just gotta live in the gray, right, and to get things
Yep.
done, and because it's not even that, but just like the bureaucracy of stuff, if they did it by the book, then it would be like too late, right? Like
Oh, yeah.
because they would have moved
For
on.
sure.
There's
There
like-
would be no progression.
yeah. So, yeah, but
Yeah, well, and then so just real quick, I just wanted to mention when he does get to his house.
yeah, I
the
was about
dinner
to say
scene.
that.
Okay, yeah.
because we haven't,
Right.
we kind of skipped
Oh, yeah,
over
sure,
that
yeah.
when we. No, you're fine. I was just like we did kind of skip over that when we were talking about overall scenes and plot, right? And but yeah, the final scene, yeah, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, go
It's
ahead.
it's also one of my favorite scenes because so he sits down at the table and it goes kind of actually this time watching it didn't seem quite as long, but it goes longer than you think it's gonna go as far as when he sits down at the table. But it's just I mean it makes sense what he does, but it's still pretty brutal. But again, compared to what this guy has done, is it?
No,
That's
but
the thing.
But again, watching it for the first time, I'm sitting
Yeah.
there thinking, I'm like, okay, your first thought is he's gonna kill the wife and kids and
Oh, yeah.
stuff, right? But then I'm like, but maybe they're gonna let him, maybe they're gonna paint him as, yes, he's a bad dude, but he's not as bad as the bad dude, right?
Right.
The head of the cartel. So maybe he will just kill him and leave the wife and kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are thoughts that are going through my head, right?
Yeah, because as a
It's-
father who lost you learn he lost his child and wife,
Yeah.
maybe he wouldn't
Yeah,
Right.
do that, yeah,
do that to them.
yeah. And then you think, well, especially the kids are innocent in this, like, right? They didn't choose this life.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, the longer he sits there, and I'm like, yeah, there's no way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He says that this man put his daughter in a vat of acid
And cut off his wife's head.
and cut off his wife's head.
Yeah, that's what he. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I think he was pretty merciful in the way that he took them
I was going
out
to mention that because
for the most part,
I thought
not that the children deserve that. I'm not
no,
saying that.
no, but I thought
considering what he could have done to them,
right.
he made
I thought
it quick.
though, like with him in particular, the first time I watched this movie, I thought he was going to kill him in a very slow way.
Yeah.
So that I was surprised first time I saw this movie that he doesn't do that
Right.
with him
They
either.
didn't suffer. I mean, he suffered watching that before
Right.
he got
that
killed.
was the main thing, yeah.
But
Yeah. But I think that explains, which makes sense for his character. It's like Alejandro doesn't really have any character growth because he completes what he's set out to do, and
Revenge.
right.
Right.
But then like afterwards, like, does he feel any better? Not really.
you
know?
don't.
Right, exactly. But like, so he doesn't really actually kind of
But he didn't get
grow
a
as a
really,
person.
really bad guy off the streets.
True.
exactly. That's true.
They and then the scene at the end with him and Kate, and then he's like walking away, and she grabs her gun to go to the window.
You
Like,
know, what are you going to do?
I know
She's
he
like-
turns around. He's like,
yeah, he's
Come
like,
on.
really,
Stop.
like,
You're embarrassing yourself.
yeah,
Stop
pretty
it.
much, yeah. Which again,
the line he said was really good about like, you're now something
You're a wolf
like,
now.
and this is an area. What does he say?
well, also like he was like, yeah, you want to sign this or you want to
Yeah.
have suicide or something.
Yeah.
Like,
You
Yeah.
either commit suicide or you sign this,
Yeah.
non-disclosure thing.
Yeah.
Papers.
Yeah.
but yeah, good movie. Any other general thoughts? And then,
Yeah.
Okay, well, go ahead.
Yeah. I just got a little bit more, and then
Trivia.
Are we gonna do trivia? Yeah.
Trivia.
Okay. All right.
Trivia corner.
Yay. Oh, yeah, we got a trivia corner.
Trivia corner now. Yeah. Oh, so this is one thing I thought about actually with the 3 movies, and actually this even could possibly be the case for some of the next movies we do of his.
Mm-hmm.
Is I've noticed at least with the 3 so far, all 3 of these films, it seems like Denis Villeneuve is like making you, when you watch these, making you ask yourself a moral question. Because so like with Enemy, I guess with that one it would be like, do you stay? It's his decision of like, do I stay with my wife or get? It's the spider analogy we talked about in that one. What choice does he make? And then Prisoners, it's, I guess that the morality question there is, I guess, how far would you go for your kids?
Right.
And then
or
in
with is it, he was trying to do the right thing, but even though then does he end up in jail, right? Or like,
right. And then with this one, it's more of like the systems that are in place for this. It's like,
do you work around them? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think even if you think about the next movies we're going to do too, I think they all, or at least almost all of them, probably will also have a similar theme or question to them. So I was noticing that with a lot of his movies in particular, which is interesting. But
Yeah. That's a good point.
and then the other one, this is the last one, about Kate. So throughout the movie, the shirt she's wearing. Hold on, let me look at my note to make sure. Yeah. So I think this was intentional. So the shirt she's wearing when the movie starts, under her jacket or whatever, is bright blue. And then as the movie goes, all of her shirts, like it starts to then become more of a paler blue shirt. And then by the end of the movie, it's a gray shirt. So I think that was intentional to see like how she has changed.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting point
Yeah.
of view. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's the first time you see her, I guess, after the opening
Mm-hmm.
mission
Yeah.
when
She
she's
had
waiting.
black on there, but in the opening mission.
Right. No, I
Right,
mean, the
right.
first time you see her, it's
Like in
specifically
her
her.
civilian clothes.
Yeah, and she's waiting outside of the
But the same brawl the whole time, evidently.
Dude, I love how
Yeah.
Daniel Kaluuya is just roasting her the
I
whole
know. I
time.
was like, we need to get you a new bra.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, "We need to get you a makeover," or they're
Yeah.
at the bar.
Yep. Yep.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All right, that's it.
So trivia.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get into trivia here. So I get all the trivia from IMDb. I'm just gonna read them off to you. Having just completed Everest 2015 and exhausted, Josh Brolin turned down this film. Cinematographer Sir Roger Deakins sent him an email imploring him to join the project. Since it was so uncharacteristic of Deakins to take this stand, Brolin changed his mind.
Didn't realize it was Sir Roger Deakins.
And-
Wow.
Oh,
And yeah, that's not typical of a
DPs.
cinematographer DP to be reaching out to actors to be in a film.
hey,
It's-
you're gonna want to be in this.
yeah.
That makes sense though. Why he's like, wow, this person is asking me.
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
like, okay, I guess I should do
Yeah.
this.
And but I mean, he's obviously really well known cinematographer,
Exactly.
direct,
Yeah.
DP.
He has
but,
a lot of pull.
yeah, but it's just that's unusual. That's cool.
Next, while Benicio del Toro's character is frequently silent in the movie, he initially had more lines. In the original script, the character explained his background several times to Kate, Del Toro said, and that gave me information about who this guy was, but it felt a little stiff to have someone you just met 15 minutes ago suddenly telling you what happened to him and who he is. Working with director Denis Villeneuve, Del Toro began cutting some of his dialogue to preserve the mystery of who his character is. Villeneuve estimated they cut 90% of what Del Toro was originally intended to say by screenwriter Taylor Sheridan. Like Del Toro, Villeneuve saw power in stripping the character down to a brooding silence, stating that dialogue belongs to plays and movies are about movement, character, and presence, and Benicio had all of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's 100% true.
Great call to do that.
And,
Yeah.
and just interesting to see what it I mean, it always surprises me, even stuff I work on, like how much of a collaborative effort it is, for those, you see, like it was his idea as the actor, and he's like, hey, I have this idea for the character. I think this will make it better. And ultimately, the director makes that decision. But a good director is gonna, if someone comes with a good idea, you're gonna say, oh yeah, that actually makes it better.
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. Anyway,
And also just Benicio del Toro, just his face, like he has such a good, like if the camera's just on him and he's just staring,
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's so good. Like he's just awesome.
He's
at
worn
that.
out. He just looks like he's worn out.
Yeah.
he's been through some
Yeah.
stuff.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, for sure. When discussing the score with composer Johan Johansson, director Denis Villeneuve said he wanted the sound of a
Jaws thing.
threat. The one film Villeneuve used as a comparison was director Steven Spielberg's Jaws, 1949.
Okay, so it was Denny. I thought he thought of it, so it was his
he
idea.
wanted it to sound like a threat. Yeah.
Cool.
So,
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's a great note from the director then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I thought Johan Johansson just was thinking that anyway, but that's cool. You gave him that note.
The border crossing scene was one of the most complicated parts of the production. It took so long to shoot that a full-scale replica of the Juarez border crossing was built. Wow, okay. Shooting at the real location would have required days of
Dang.
road closures, which would not have been practical. So it's a stage.
That the whole border.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez. Yeah, that would.
That's why.
Well, there's a lot of your budget right there.
I was going to say.
You had to
Yes.
make that whole
Probably,
set. Jeez.
yeah.
That is insane.
But when we did look it up though, so obviously that was fake, but they did film, I guess the street scenes were actually in Mexico.
Yeah.
So they did still film
Oh, yeah.
some of that.
Yeah.
You're just closing like especially a bridge that goes.
Right, that's
Right,
true.
you
Yeah.
just-
When the team has entered the tunnel, Emily Blunt hits her head on the top of the tunnel. Do you remember?
Yes.
Director Denis Villeneuve said in an interview that he left that take in because it added realness to the mission and the film itself.
Yeah. I actually thought of that.
Me too. I was like, is that
when she
authentic?
did it, and then she took the helmet off and put it to the side after, and I was like, oh, that's interesting, just to kind of show this is not the type of stuff she normally deals with, and she's out of her element, and I was like, oh, I was thinking, hey, that must have been intentional, which it was, but kind of after the fact, right? Like
Right.
it probably was an accident in the take, but then he was like, that's good. Let's
Yeah,
add it in.
nice.
Yeah. It also kind of shows like that realistically she's still a rookie among these guys, these like Marine type dudes.
Yeah.
So, adding her a little clumsy
Oh,
was really
yeah.
good.
I was thinking also is, I think she did a really good job of right after Alejandro shoots her in her bulletproof vest.
Mm-hmm.
She did a really good job of like even when she was
Like
trying
having
to
the
talk.
wind knocked out of her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Because is it just one shot? Does he?
No,
hit her
he did
one and
two.
one? Two. Okay. Yeah.
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 In the original screenplay, Alejandro was only going to murder Alarcón in front of his wife. It was later changed to him killing Alarcón's family at the dinner table. So originally, it was just going to be
They wanted to make it even worse.
Yeah. How can we just make this horrible?
Yeah.
Up the ante.
Yeah. Emily Blunt and Benicio del Toro both appeared in The Wolfman 2010. At the end of this film, he tells her to move to a new town because this is now a land of wolves, and she would not survive there.
There's your quote.
Yep,
I'm trying to remember
there
what
it
he
is.
I
said.
know. I'm glad. Yeah. I couldn't remember what the quote was, but that's cool. I never heard of that movie. So they're both in that
Yeah.
movie. Nice.
In Escobar Paradise Lost 2014, Benicio del Toro played the biggest drug dealer of all time, Pablo Escobar. In this film, his character hunts down and kills the biggest current drug kingpin, Fausto Alarcón. So this is the second time he's killed Alarcón in a movie.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
There was another one that I saw that I didn't see in here. Let me see. Oh, okay, yeah. Actress Emily Blunt, Kate Macer, was so sick from food poisoning whilst filming in Mexico that she required IV fluids between takes just to make it through her scenes.
Oh, wow.
Sheesh.
Don't drink the water in Mexico.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
don't do that.
I mean, rule number one.
yeah.
Cool.
Dang.
Any other last thoughts?
No, I think what makes me like this movie above all, like other drug cartel type films, is that it feels the most raw and authentic.
Yeah,
You know,
I agree.
I wouldn't be surprised if you went to Juarez right now and you would see like people hanging from bridges and stuff. Like I feel like that they really expose that kind of just horrible side of what really goes on. It's not just people selling drugs back and forth.
Right.
There's some brutal things happening. And, you know,
Really?
we got to protect our borders.
Right.
What are we watching next?
Crap. I need to put that note on here. I forgot to.
Yeah. Did we? No. Yeah, we
did
mentioned
mention
last
it.
time. Yeah. It's not Blade Runner yet, so it probably
Is it Arrival?
It was Arrival, yeah.
Okay.
Nice. Sick.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Yes.
Very excited about
And
that.
now we're getting away from. Now we're getting into my genre of things.
And stuff that you've
Same.
seen already
Yeah.
too,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
I
been a
think I've
long.
seen this twice.
I've only seen it once, and it was like right when it came out, so it's
Nice.
been a while.
Okay, you've probably seen the most. I've only seen Arrival once.
No, I've seen it twice that I know of,
Cool.
maybe 3 times, just because I sometimes will rewatch movies and, you know, but love this
Well, this will be
movie.
interesting. I think this is the first one that you would have seen the most.
More. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Be good. Be very exciting.
All right.
Still all heaters from here on out.
Oh, man.
I mean, it's
I'm ready to go.
It's
like,
crazy,
let's
yeah.
get to these next ones. Yes.
Cool. Well, thank you for watching and listening to this episode of Screen Time. We really appreciate your support. If you'd like to support us more, please rate and review the episode, or also in Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or subscribe on YouTube. If you have any questions or feedback, just email us at feedback@screentimepod.com. And you'd like to follow us on Instagram, I'm Jay Youngbar on Instagram.
I'm Claudia Youngbar on Instagram.
And I'm Jared Youngbar on Instagram.
And with that, we will talk to you next time. See ya.
Bye.